How's it going?
Hi everyone and welcome along to Sonic Academy with me, Chris. Today I am chatting to a producer who's from Russia but is now based in LA. Not only is he known for his own productions, but he's known for his epic remixes which sometimes eclipse the originals. He's released on labels such as Anjunabeats, Enhanced and Interscope, and his new single out called Bloodfire on Revealed Recordings. It is my pleasure to welcome the one, the only Arty to Sonic Academy. Hi Arty, are you there?
What's up guys? What's up? Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for joining us on Sonic Academy today. Been a big fan of your work from probably the very start. I think, been aware of your tracks first on Enhanced. Did you originally release on Flashover?
Flashover? No, Flashover was a really long time ago. I think Flashover was back in 2010. The last track that came out there on the very course since Intern was Hope. I think Hope, yeah. Was that?
What was your first single? Was it signed to Enhanced in about 2009?
Yeah, I think my solo single was signed to Enhanced. Also, before that, me and my friend, we were messing around in the studio. We were sitting in a nightclub in the daytime, and we were using the mono speaker to make a record. And we actually made this record, and it was in the headphones, it sounded pretty decent, considering the fact, what kind of environment you use for that. So that was kind of funny. And I think that was the first release that we made. It was the first official thing where you sign the papers and it's going ahead with the track. But my first the solo single was signed to I think it was Enhanced Recordings.
So tell me a little bit about how a young classically trained pianist from Russia gets his music out and gets it heard by the UK label Enhanced, and how do you get it into those hands, and how do you start the process for any young DJs out there that are stuck in a bedroom studio? How did you do it?
I was still in the bed. It's still my bedroom studio pretty much. Nothing really changed. Only when I've been working on my first solo album, there was a lot of songwriting and stuff like that. So you obviously want to go to the proper studio, where there's more space. You have the audio engineer, because I would prefer when the thing goes to the vocal and you want to process it right. I'd rather let it do for the people who knows how to do that better than me, because I'm really more into the mixing and mastering rather than processing the vocal in the studio. So it's really nice to have audio engineer, you have really good vocal booth, you have different setups for the microphone so you can get exact vocal that you want. And this is not the only some of the studios are so nice. So it's the writing process, when you write in the songs, is kind of smooth. It's there's a lot of space, and you can chat with the songwriters, kind of make the connection, and just everyone can be their own. It's really good vibe in a big studio. It's a big monitor. It's really loud. You can play some different music, and it's just creates the vibe for the writing the songs. But when the thing goes to actually making the music, coming up with the ideas, I definitely don't need any studio. It's just my setup, my MIDI keyboard and the headphones. That's what I use for the most part. It's a Sennheiser H600.
Yeah, it's something it's a very new thing to. I've got the Sennheiser 650s here, but I still need monitors. I still have my old Mackies here. Can you make stuff on headphones quite happily and quite comfortably?
Well, I think before you mentioned the record Bloodfire, that just came out and we were recording. So it was the whole thing from the top to the bottom was made in headphones. I do have a Genelec speakers as well, 8050, but my room is totally not ready for that kind of big speakers. It's just a lot of reverb, a lot of clash of the sound, because right in front of me is just huge glass. It's literally glass through the whole wall. So there's no way I'm gonna get the decent sound in my room, but I just love this room so much. I feel so comfortable, and since I've been 15, 16 years old, that's the time when I started kind of messing around with the music. Since then I've been pretty much using the headphones all the time, and the headphones that I had back then was shit ones, so I had pretty good shit control. I think it was something like Pioneer MJ45. It was not even Pioneer. No, wait. It was like something like I don't remember. It was pretty bad headphones, but
please be
careful. Cheap one, really cheap one.
Be careful of your hearing.
What's that?
Be careful of your hearing. Don't have them too loud.
Oh no! I'm be careful with that.
Let's talk about the single Bloodfire. It's out on Hardwell's Revealed recording, and again, it certainly has a trancey breakdown vibe. There's definitely a future bass vibe to it. Tell me how did that come about?
I don't know. I mean, I think last year was, like last year and a half was all about like kind of new involvement of the future house, the future bass music, which pretty much based on a bass house music back from like UK beginning like end of 90s, and I kind of like this. I kind of like this direction of the dance music. Not like I'm putting myself into that. Mm-hmm. I'm just enjoying some of the tracks. So I think it's like some of the tracks were like really good inspiration for me because I wanted to come up with dance record that I can play in my live sets, because I've been so busy with the album, and the whole album has no dance records at all, apart of like maybe like 1-2 records that I can play in my live sets. Uh-huh. So I've been working on an album for 2 years, and it's like I went to the point when I started to miss that kind of the sound. Like I wanna do something like dancey, and I wanna do something fun. I wanna do something that's like stuck, like goes out of my box a little bit. So I came out with this record, and I was playing it just for fun, like I don't know, 3-4 months, and it was really good response, and we just decided to release it. And the real recordings were the people who really wanted to sign it, so we went with them. They have a great team, and everything is amazing.
You love it. Okay, let's talk about the album, because we know Arty as the big Anjunabeats artist, the enhanced artist, the guy that's done huge tracks like Rebound with Matt Zoe, has done tracks with Armin. Glorious is a very moving to Interscope. Did that change a lot for you? How did you find that shift from the sort of indie trance label to the big American corporate label?
It was interesting. It was a lot of new. There's a lot of new experience, because like the way how this label operates is completely different. It's a big major label. Like they have a lot of departments. Like they have a lot of things are done in a way different way. So it's like you have to deal with something that you never had to deal with before. So that was kind of interesting experience. And I think
interesting good or interesting bad?
Not good or not bad. It's just been really good experience for me to know how to deal with the major labels, like how they work, because obviously it's a pop label, right? So it's like the way how they deal with the records, like the best way for them to do that if you have like the pop record in your hands. Uh-huh. And obviously, like that was never my goal to go with the pop record, so I just made a record that I'm pretty happy with. So it's really like indie dance, a little bit of pop, a little bit like a little bit of French house, a little bit of my old school progressive sound, and all kind of stuff. And I was just happy to put out my record, because like people were asking it for such a long time. Maybe they were kind of frustrated a little bit because of the fact it's not like reflection of my old sound, but it's reflection of me as being in a person for the last 2 years, because it took like a lot of time, because the album went through so many tweaks and changes. I think every track on the album right now has like 2-3 different versions as well.
At least it's something that I always talk about when doing these interviews, and I know it's probably a frustration of yours to not just do that progressive trance sound. You want to experiment. I mean, Closer to You on the album is just this amazing French, house disco workout. I absolutely love it. And Up All Night is an incredible piece of, radio track. It's so on point. How do you go about writing a track like Up All Night? Are you very involved in the songwriting process, lyrics and vocals, or do you kind of leave that to co-writers, or how does that work?
Well, I think for Up All Night, it's been 3 of us like sitting in the studio. It was me, Toby Gatt, who's like really amazing songwriter, and obviously Angela Taylor as well, who were co-writer on the track. So like everything we cut it that night, because like I think we wrote the track like in one night. Everything that we cut it in one night in his studio was the actual final mix down for the vocals. And yeah, I've been really involved in the co-writing, because I think only in this case it kind of finds the reflection of your personality on your album. Because like obviously, because my English is not my native language, so for me it's way harder to trying to explain something that I feel, especially rhyming it. It's that at some point I can like when the writers are stuck with the lyrics, like all of a sudden I would come up with an idea that actually fits the lyrics so well and makes sense like in rhyming, and makes sense like in what you're trying to tell. So yeah, I've been involved, like not heavily, not like I would write like the whole verses and choruses, but in most of the cases I would definitely give the directions, like, because this is the instrumental part, right? This is what I feel about it, and that's where we should go.
So I mean, you're classically trained, so you have a huge understanding of music theory and how harmony works and stuff. So you can obviously really direct a singer and articulate your ideas to tell them, musically how your ideas want to work. Is the songwriting something you want to develop?
Yeah, I would definitely develop it, because the thing is, when I started to work on an album, before that I would never deal with with the songwriting. It was like I would guess like some of the acapellas from my tracks. So you would send the track to the songwriter, and he would send you back the ideas, and they're like, yeah, well, that sounds fine. Let's just acapella on the top and just go ahead with that. And that's how it would be like before. But when I jumped in the studio, it was like the first time when I had a studio session with the writers, I was so frustrated. It was like, what am I supposed to do? How I can explain that and that? It's like how I can get to the point when we have like the same vibe. So it's like the studio session doesn't feel awkward, how it feels awkward for me right now, because it was like insanely awkward. But I think like with when I went to second and third studio session, that was so amazing, because the thing is like, yeah, you have the instrumental tracks, and like instruments can be really powerful because it's all about the harmonies in the end of the day. It's like it's all about how you put in together the chords that gives the people that feeling of like happiness or sadness or that and that and that. And it doesn't really matter what kind of style is that. It's like you can express yourself in any style with any chord progressions. But when you get to the point when you have the lyrics on the top of your song, this is something incredible. This is like completely next level of like taking your song to the point when you can explain to people like so many things with your words, like so many powerful words that you can use, or so many like unnecessary words but still gonna work like with lyrics. It's just so amazing process, and it's so long as well. It's like not like you can do the track like in 2 nights. It's like you have to write the lyrics, you have to cut like with the songwriter, and it's like if songwriter doesn't want to be on a song, like you have to cut it with some other singer, you have to do like the final mix down. So the whole process like takes from, I don't know, like from month to like 4 or 5 months. It's pretty long process, but it's such an amazing experience as well.
I mean, do you work fast? I mean, are you somebody that can do a track up in a day or 2 days, or do you take a week, or do you turn around tracks very quickly?
2-3 days to like 2 weeks usually. It doesn't take me more than that.
So do you find that month-long process frustrating, or do you actually kind of like that? It's kind of the opposite of what you're normally used to.
Really depends on the track, to be honest, because I would say in most of the cases you want to go with less instruments and just try to focus like those instrument sounds. Like you don't want to overload the tracks with like way too many things, right? And that's what's happening when you like jump in on a track and you're working on it for 2 weeks. It's like it means you have way too many things going on, so you have to put everything on the right places. You have to like do the mixing, you have to like make sure it's like there's no like some unnecessary frequencies going here and there. So it's like in 2 weeks you have way too much things going on in your project. So the last time it takes you to work on a track, it means the last things is going on there, and which also means the better mix down you're gonna have. and the better flow as well. So I think like for me personally, the faster I'm doing the tracks, not like necessarily the better they sound like, but it's just more kind of natural, I would say.
Let's get into some actual production talk. I take it you use FL Studio. What is your go-to synth? What's the synth that you always open up and you start with?
There's a bunch of the synths. I mean, for the like usual kind of lead parts, I would go with the silent. Obviously, I would go with the massive. I would go with the serum. I mean, I just discovered the serum for myself, and I really like it. And I like Spire, but I never went to the point when I used Spire way too many times. So I think the Spire would be like the last pick in this list. But also, I really love Alchemy, which I believe not exists anymore, and that would be my synth to go for the past atmospheric things. It's like, for me, Alchemy feels better than Absinthe, even though there's like Alchemy is a rumpler like Nexus. It's still a lot of like things that you can tweak. It's like you have a control over the sound that you have like in the actual synth. It's like not like Nexus when like you don't control that many things.
Yeah.
So it's better control. It's amazing. It's like there's amazing, really like layered atmospheric sounds that you can use for the bass, like for breakdowns and stuff like that. There's a lot of really amazing plugs as well, because I love plugs personally, and I think like Alchemy comes up like with one of the best plugs because they kind of feel natural. It's like natural instruments that give you like a sound, but it's still like mixed with the synths. So it's really interesting. It's like this sound would be like right in the middle. It's not really like plain silent plugs or whatsoever. Obviously, you can make it like really, wide with the reverbs and delays and everything else. But when you have the actual instrument that gives you amazing sound, that's like a best way to go.
It was my next question here was going to be what makes the very famous Arty pluck sound? And are you telling me then you go to Alchemy?
Well, I'm going to Alchemy right now, but like before that it would be silent for sure. I mean, back in 2010, 2011, that would be the synth that I was using the most. I think silent and Nexus. I mean, Nexus for the fact because like my production was like heavily involved with the big blades like for the drop parts, for the main parts. So Nexus would be a really easy and convenient thing to layer the things with. So it's like you would have like one layer of the silent, which with a bunch of the sauce going on, and it's like you would put Nexus just as a layer, and would give you like the warm feeling of that your part sounds full, so you don't have to like make it up with the mixer.
Cool. And what generates your reverb? What's the big reverb you use?
EOS. That's my favorite reverb. It's like I discovered a couple of years ago, and since that I didn't find anything better, something that suits me better than this reverb.
What do you call it? EOS?
Yeah, EOS.
And who makes that?
I think it's. Well, I can check it right now. I think it's Audio Damage.
Audio Damage, right?
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it's Audio Damage.
Oh, it must go. I'd say I love this because I found out there's loads of plugins that you miss, and you don't think Audio Damage does this amazing reverb, and then you as soon as I finish this Skype call, I'll be on and grab it.
It's like the thing about EOS is like when you open it, it's like, well, this is not first like it's not really heavy. It's like it's probably like about megabyte or something. But it's really well put it together. It's not that many tweaks that you can have, but again, you can do the infinite reverb with that. Not that many reverbs have the infinite function.
Yeah.
It's like when you want to do like really fancy like vocal tail or the synth tail, it's like you open the FL reverb. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Because like in this case, you have to stretch the audio files. Like you would like do the bounce of the reverb and you would stretch it, and when you stretch the things, it doesn't sound that good.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of like really good like time stretch that sounds pretty good, but I think it's like when you have the infinite function on a reverb, it's so cool to use, like, because it's a layer of the vocal that you like want to pick up the one note with a reverb, and like put it like all over your drop with the sidechain or something like that.
Brilliant. I'm gonna go straight away and check that out.
Small as well. It's small like that, but it sounds so good.
I can't wait to check that. I'm really excited about this now. Drums. Do you chop in loops? Do you have MIDI files? Do you produce audio on the timeline. How do you approach drum programming?
Well, I think this is the coolest part about FL Studio, and I think not that many sequencer before, like, you know, Cubase or Logic back in like in 5 years or 6 years before, they would have the, you know, the splicing function.
Yeah.
So basically in FL Studio, it was like in a version 7 or version 8 or version 9, if I'm correct, you would just right click on an audio file and you would call it like just slice it. So you would have a loop from, I mean, let's be like super simple. Let's say like you have Vengeance back, right? And you really like some of the sounds in the loop, so you like just right click and slicing the whole thing, and it slices like the whole drum, so you just can pick it up and do your fancy drum. And that was super easy. It's still like that, and I think like a lot of sequencers, other sequencers realized that and it's like, well, this is an amazing function, so we should add it as well. It's like, because you're really trying to be careful with the situation with your processor, how busy is that, so how many things going on, so it's like all the time like open really heavy like the drum slicers like as separate beastie, as a third-party beastie, like especially for FL Studio, it's not a really good idea.
Yeah.
And basically like Fruity Slicer doesn't take anything like from your memory, and this is like the best part about that. So all of the processing of the drums is like, it's super easy. Like you can slice pretty much everything. You can stretch it, you can make it faster, you can make it slower, you can pitch it down, you can pitch it up. It's like you have pretty much the whole control over the drum loop. It's not gonna sound the same when it was like in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it says like the function that you have right now, or the splice.com, when you can download separate samples. Yeah. I think this is amazing, and they have like really good packs, and you can like download the separate files, and this is the way how I'm creating the drums right now. It's more of the actual putting together, like, you know, hats and percussions and kicks, rather than using like just the whole full loop.
Right, so you're grabbing individual sounds, slicing things up, pitching it down, changing it up.
Yeah.
And what about drum processing? What's
I think for the real long time I had a T-Rex over my drum processing. I have the equalization that cuts the. I've literally like looking at the project right now. Yeah, I think like I'm kind of like over the 50 hertz or something. Just make sure there's no low ends and stuff like that. Because I've never been really that deep into the actual knowledge of how exactly the frequencies works, but as long as you cut it in your mixer, it's like it has to work like when you're EQing over the leads, over the drums, over the bass and stuff. But it's just like really basic cuts, like over the 50 hertz for drums, like 20-30 hertz for bass, and for leads it just really depends how you like putting together the mix. So for the drums, I also use the soft tube tech compressor, which is pretty amazing, and I've been using it for a really long time. And I think they also have what would be the name? It's like equalizer saturator. Yeah. I think it's another tube tech PE1C, which is pretty good. It's the software versions of the actual analog compressors, that like equalizers, but this sounds really nice.
Yeah, cool.
I think soft tube compressors are one of the best. I think Fight compressor I'm using over my synths bus and the bass bus as well.
I've heard a lot of good things about soft tube stuff. You are sitting with a blank FL project. What's the first thing you start? Drums?
Melody, always a melody. Never drums. I think 1%, one time of 99, I would go with it. I would go with the drums with the bass. Okay. 99 out of 100, this is just a melody, a simple chords over piano. It's just sometimes you find really good French house samples, really groovy, and you start to put in together the drums and the bass, and it's kind of. That's the way how I did the track from my album Inertia. I just found some really amazing just the groove sample with a bunch of the guitars and stuff, and some old packs, and it's wow, that's amazing. I'm just gonna work on top of that. So you would come up with the bass, you come up like with the drums, and that's how I got the record. But this is like really rare scenario when I'm doing stuff like that. So most of the time I'm just going with a melody or a piano. So I would put like, I think it's Piano Tech that I'm using right now most of the time for my pianos.
And what is Piano Tech? Is it a VST or is it a contact instrument? Or what?
Piano Tech is a VST. It's really a light one. It's like, I think it's like about like 30 megabytes or something. But the sound you get from it is insane. Especially Piano Tech 5. It sounds pretty amazing. I think Piano Tech 5 is the way to go if like you don't want to overload your project with really heavy like contact libraries and stuff, because like it eats your memory so fast.
Yeah, it does.
And especially, it's like my biggest problem right now that I have so many 32-bit plugins, and like, you know, getting from 32-bit plugins to 64-bit surface for me is kind of really hard, because like a lot of old projects that I'm working right now that contains all of like unnecessary old VSTs that I'm not using anymore. But I want to be able to like, you know, open the project and see what's happening there, right? So that's another reason why I'm kind of struggling with the fact when it goes to like really heavy libraries like Contact. So I'm not using it that much, because FL Studio 32-bit version kind of struggles with that a lot. 64-bit version is like way smoother, and you can actually work with a lot of lone audio files, while like in 32-bit version it's doomed. Like you can have like 10, 11 lone audio files like stems from the track, and after you project most are going to be crushed.
Oh dear, I didn't know that. You're going to have to move at some point. There's going to have to be somewhere you go.
I think with the FL 13, when it's coming out, they're probably going to not like solve it, but for me it's going to be like the move to go. So it's like with the FL 12, I'm going to go through all of my old projects, like, you know what, this is the time.
Yeah.
This is the time to move on and move like to 64-bit projects. Also, I think there's you can upload the 64-bit plugins as a 32-bit plugin through the bridge, but it's really unstable in most of the cases. It's not Imagine line folds. It's just like all of the VSTs, they're written in a different way, right? It's like their code is really different, and it's like, so there's a lot of like scenarios when it's like plugin might just not gonna work, or it's just like crush your project, or it might work for like, you know, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, and after you're gonna try like to open your project again, it's just not working. It's like, so what happened there is like, well, just try to not use the bridge. That's
look, a while back when Logic was going from 32-bit to 64-bit, there was the same bridge problem.
Oh, told me about that. It was crazy.
Crashing. You are probably one of the most successful remixers on the scene today. You've remixed like Porter Robinson, One Republic, Ed Sheeran and Rudimental, and of course the epic London Grammar. Can we talk a little bit about that remix and how it came about, and how did you know at the time when you were doing it going, this is something pretty special?
Man, that's my favorite story, to be honest. Like about the remixes, for sure, Hey Now would stand out, because I think it was January 2013, me and my tour manager, like, because by that time I started to live in LA, and we were going like for the groceries, like just to get some groceries from my house. Yeah. And he was like, and he's from Manchester, so he like has the BBC radio in like his car like all the time, because he missed the hometown, you know.
Probably be Six Music, is it?
Yeah, I mean BBC radio.
Yeah.
Like he's into that, and he's like, man, like I was listening Zayn Love like before he moved to Beats, and he had like so much like diverse and like different music. It would be like Above and Beyond, or like rock music, or it was like heavy metal, or it's like, you know, dubstep, or like all kind of sorts of music, and especially indie music and indie dance. So he's like, man, you have to listen to this track. Like Zayn Love just played it. Yeah. And he played me original of Hey Now, and I was blown away. It's like, this is amazing. This is the just amazing record. And I think I never asked my manager that I really want to remix it. It was like, you know, just idea that clicked in my head. It's like, this is something that I want to remix because I feel the vibe. And I waited till the moment track came out. I got the MP3, I put it in a project, and the whole thing is like the actual official release that you can hear in Ministry of Sound was made out of the MP3. And I think the quality of the file was like 192 kilohertz as well. So it was not even like the WAV file, or not even like the high quality MP3. It was pretty like average.
And Arty, did anybody ever notice?
No, never told me. I was like, not really. I was like, eventually I got the stems, but I got the stems of like, what I'm gonna do with that? I was like, I don't need it anymore. The track is done. I think it's mostly goes to the fact like what you're using around it, and it's just like not even the mixing. It's just like the structure of the sound of the synths that I've been using, because like, you know, it's a 16 chords that's like has been so much like had so much popularity back like in 2009 2010 with you know, it was like all of the like Deadmau5, like Fax and Berlin and stuff like that. That's like that was the music that I've been that I grew on. That was music, the reason why I even started to do that. So for me, it's like it's super, you know, it feels really natural to like do the 16 chords and just like play around. And when you find the right sound, it kind of starts to work with your MP3 file that you have over there, and it's just a matter of like how you cut it, what kind of parts you use it, and yeah, it's been pretty funny. I mean, there's just some moments unnoticeable. It's like the clicks that you can't get rid of, but eventually I did that. So just like using the volume envelope and using the reverb, so you can kind of hide the clicks.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what.
That a truly amazing story. I love the fact that it's a 192 MP3 file, and it has been one of the biggest tracks. It was, I was doing a date in Sweden. It was one of the last times I DJ'd, and in my set it was the record I was playing right at the end, and it just took everybody from this sort of normal, you know, I was at a side tent, and by the time that build up happened, the whole place was just going ape shit, and it was just when the first time I heard it and we all listened to it in Sonic Academy office, it was like I remember hearing it on Above and Beyond or something, and I went into the office the next day and went, guys, check this track out. This is mind blowing. Like, this is I am a huge fan of stuff.
Also, in my defense, using 192 kilohertz version, I would say the actual original record doesn't have that many high frequencies. Like the way how it mixed down, like she has pretty deep voice.
Yeah.
And all of the instruments, they kind of like laid down low in a mix. So it was not a big deal to just pump it up a little bit of high frequencies and bring it up with your own production. So
absolutely. It's a very sparse record. The originals are quite sparse and not loads of information on it. What is your secret? Have you got a secret weapon in the studio, like a small plugin that you use that, you know, does splicing or anything like that?
Well, I think like the reverb would be the secret for, like, you know, really spacey kind of bass that you're using in breakdown, and a little bit of reverb in the main instruments as well. Also, I think like I started to be way more careful with my reverb, because like when I'm listening to my own like old production back from 2010, I was like, man, I couldn't use that much reverb, and I actually did. Like the reverb is all over the place, and obviously it's like when you have like so many things going on in your mixer, and you have the master chain at the same time, and everything's like compressing each other. It's like all of the clashes in the frequencies. Like now it hurts my ears, but back then you didn't really care about that.
No,
it's just, you know, that's kind of thing that you have to figure out for yourself. Like you can be a really good sound designer, but at the same time you don't want to lose the flow. So you want to find a space like right in the middle when you're really comfortable with the way how your track sounds like, but at the same time the sound design shouldn't be something that's supposed to stop you from like putting your ideas into the track that you're working on. Like if you want to have like more reverb, just go for it. If you want to have a delay where it's not supposed to be, just go for it, because like it feels natural. Like as long as it feels natural, like your flow, like your working flow is going to be way better as well.
can I ask you, what is your least favorite part of production? What's the bit that you kind of come to and you go,
I think like I'm not hating on it, but just like I really like to do the main part. I really like to work on the breakdowns, but it's like the climaxes, and it's like and an intro for the record. It's just like I think that's the reason. It's like the reason why it happened because of my album. Because album doesn't have to have it. Album doesn't have to have like extended versions.
Yeah.
And with like the amount of the tracks that I did for the album, because like 14 tracks that on an album is not everything that I made in 2 years. There's like way more. It's like I think it's like we wrote about like 40 songs or something. So it's like, and every song has production. So you start with a breakdown, you straight go to the drop, and it's just such a simple structure that you're getting used to, and it's like you get them lazy, and you making it's like you're making the club records like, oh fuck, I have to do the intro mix right now. It's like I have to do the intro beats, and it's like you don't know. It's like should you do like more kind of like uplifting thing that drops to the breakdown, or it should be plain because nobody cares about that. So it's like there's a bunch of the things that are going on, and in the climaxes as well, because I really like really good climaxes, and all the time you're trying to be like, yo man, I want to be fresh with this. Like I don't just want to drop the snares and the claps and just like a bunch of the uplifters to make it work. And unfortunately, it's like in most of the cases, just ending up with the snares and claps and uplifters. Just try to make it cool and try to find like a cool sound spread.
No, I totally, it was the same when I was producing back in the day, and it was drum rolls where they, every record had a drum roll, and by the time you're on your 15th single, you're going, I have to do another drum roll, and you're trying to think of different ways to try and make it interesting for you as a producer. It's different. Let's quickly talk about DJing. Is that something you love doing, or is it hard to get balance between writing 40 tracks for an album and touring across the world? I know you were recently in Australia.
Yeah. So what was the question?
The question was, do you enjoy DJing? Do you like that part
of it?
I
love it, man. I absolutely love it. I think DJing, it really depends like on a personality. It's like what kind of goals in your career is like which one to choose. For me, I never hesitated about the fact that I'm going to be a DJ, because like the more your music becomes popular, the more demand, like the people demand to see you playing your own music, And I think it's such a good task field. Like when you go in and play your records, like, well, I fucked it up. So, like this record doesn't sound good in the club.
Okay.
And not like you doing a DJing just because of it. It's just like other side of the, being sit-ins like 14 hours every day, like in front of your computer making the music. It's a really good change, like going like on a weekend and play the show, considering the fact like there's going to be a lot of fans, they're going to appreciate your music that you're playing, and it's just going to be like a lot of fun as well. And traveling around the world, I mean, like if you're not a boring person, who would deny that kind of option, right?
Yeah.
So deny the fact that you can travel here and there, you can see different people, you can see different nations, you can see like, different cultures, like everything can like actually be like so influencing, like in the music that you do. It's like it can be inspiration. I mean, you can be tired, it's probably not gonna have like way too much time to make the music like between the shows, but if you do the right time management, everything works together.
I saw on Facebook this week about Australia. Do you want to talk about your Australian tour and the Sydney show, or is that something,
I mean, the show itself was great. It was just like, there's always people who complain about something, and I think the trance scene is really strong, but what people have to realize, that's not on me who's like doing the announcements. Like, so I was trying to figure out if I'm playing like a classic trance set or a classic artist set. With the second one, I actually did it because like I played a lot of my old school tracks, but how people can expect me playing the trance when I never even released the track faster than 135 BPM?
Yeah.
That was never my nature. It's like that was never the way of how I'm DJing. I think like when I played the State of Trance 500, there's like one of my first biggest shows. The second track was Axwell, Hard as the King, just because I really like it. It's not like. No, the thing with the DJ, like DJing, it just really depends on like on an area. It's like really depends like what kind of type of the festival is that as well. So I'm trying to stick with the places where I feel comfortable, when I know it's like my fans are expecting me playing that and that and that, but they still don't expect that I'm going to play maybe a big room, maybe like EDM, maybe like techno, maybe that and that. It's like, and everything is combined. So people can say it's like it's a big mass, like when you're playing way too many styles, but for me it's something that really suits me. Like that's me. I love it. It's like, you know, it's like I can drop this track, I can play some of the classics, and every time is going to be a different experience. Like you don't want to stuck like with your old roots. Like I have to move forward.
I completely agree. When we started out in 1998, we could play progressive, then trance, then a bit of techno, and a bit of like acid and stuff. And then it became very, very narrow, and you had to play either Paul Van Dyk type trance or Anjunabeats type trance or Armin type trance, and I got very, very uncomfortable going down those sort of routes. Where's the best country in the world to play?
Best country in the world?
Yeah.
I don't think there's the best country in the world. I just think like it depends on the show. It's like if the people do appreciate what you're playing and they really like into your music and like just singing along some of your tracks that you made, it doesn't really matter what country you're playing. It's just, it all depends on the people in the crowd. That's the most important thing. I mean, there's really good countries. I mean, obviously North America have so many places to play. Like you can play like in the East Coast and West Coast. You can play in the middle. It's just there's so many clubs, so many festivals. You also have Canada on the north. You have Mexico on the south. And it's just like such a spread out area with really developed dance music platform, which also cool because like America kind of took over in the last couple of years, but now Europe is getting back like with a massive waves, and now you have like all the European markets, and it's like there's amazing clubs through the Europe. It's like the Boots House in Germany is just like insane. I never played there, but I heard so many good things. Like, dude, this is like the best club in the world. And you know, mini show sounds, like I didn't play mini show sound for like 2 years, and I got back there in February and it was great. It's like the same old mini show sounds, the same old amazing English people.
Yeah,
it all depends. Like, where's the good vibe? That's like the only good vibe that really matters, to be honest.
Arty, I genuinely want to thank you so much for joining us on Sonic Academy today. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and it's been a huge insight. I've been genuinely buzzing here going, right, I'm going to hit you on Skype and get a list of plugins that I have to go and check out, because your Reverb and the compressors, the soft tube compressors and all,
You should check the soft tube compressors. They're pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's the one, you know, I've got all the UAD stuff here. It's the one area that I haven't had a chance to.
There's actually a lot of soft tube compressors in UAD.
And I haven't had a chance to look at them.
It sounds slightly better because, I mean, maybe not. Depends how they've been coded for UAD.
Yeah.
Yes. Have fun with that.
I'm going to thank. I'm genuinely thrilled. I'm buzzed up here. After it's a real inspiration chatting to you, and I'm sure anybody watching this. We have one comment on Facebook here. Going, when writing music, how do you stay within the genre? And that comes in from Eric Rollerkite. So how do you stay? How do you go from genre to genre and keep within that?
I think it's all about inspiration. I mean, I can do completely different music. It's like I just came up with a record on a big major pop label, which was never intended as a pop record, right? There's like a bunch of the pop records on an album, but it doesn't mean that it's the actual pop record. But again, like direction, people kind of get it. It's a major label, so it's like it's gonna be pop music and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Before that, I was doing like kind of trance progressive house oriented music. Now I'm just finished the remix for Armin, which sounds pretty trancey, and people's like, wow, this is the old school Arty, this is amazing, which for me is just like the music that I really like to do.
Yeah.
It's like I started this remix, like, well, that's something that I want to do with this remix. It's never been intended as like I want to get back to my old roots. Or the track like that just came out on Anjunabeats called Patriots, it's just kind of old school vibe with me, but just because I had this vibe to do, like I didn't have intention to do, is like especially for Anjunabeats, especially in that kind of box that like you make in the music. No, it's just been like I had this idea, I had this melody, and I thought I was like, well, like the big massive chorus and the drop is just gonna work because like I know it for sure. And now it's like you have Bloodfire, which is completely different direction from both of this, like different direction from my album, different direction from the remix for Armin that didn't come out yet. And I have new track on Anjunabeats that I'm just have to finish like in next like week or so, which is way too different from all of those three. So it's really there's no such a thing like, you know, the stacking in a genre right now.
Yeah.
People are super open-minded. It's nothing like it was like, you know, 7 years ago when it was like you changing your style and you're afraid. Like everybody hates you and it's just bad thing. Now that people are way more open-minded and it's like, you know, it's like if you don't like this music, just don't listen to it. Just pass on it. Maybe this artist is gonna come out with something that you're gonna like eventually, or maybe not. So it's like just find something that you like.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's just like as long as the artist stays as much as he can be creative, that's all that matters. Like creativity, because again, it's like people are like, well, you know, you're a sellout. It's like you're doing it just for money. But if you will open my Spotify playlist and if you go through my, like, you know, a playlist that I'm usually listening on a daily basis, it contains all kind of stuff. It's like it's pop records, it's indie dance. There's a lot of, you know, Flume, because I love Flume. Yeah. He's amazing. Like, he's great. And there's like a bunch of like, you know, all kind of cool indie dance things like Rufus, Muramasa, and that things. It's like when you listen to this music, you actually get so inspired. And that kind of music actually pushes you to make something different that you never made before. So it's all about like really good inspiration, what you find like in a music, because I think music, other people's music, is the main engine for you to move somewhere forward, to move yourself forward. Because like you have to be inspired by something. It doesn't necessarily need to be a music, but as long as it's music, because like that's how like the whole music cycle works as well. You know, that's the reason why it's like Future House, like all of a sudden got back to the market of like the old school UK based music. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure it's like even like the trance music is gonna have like a huge comeback like in the next like 3-4 years when the producers realize, well, that music was amazing, and that inspires me. And with all of the new sounds, new samples, like new waves of different musics, they're gonna recreate the whole trance like into new direction. And thus was gonna call like, I don't know, future trance or something like that. So that's like the whole like cycles of like at least dance music. I don't know how it works in the pop because it's never been my market or it's like my surface where I have like better knowledge. Mm-hmm. But that's what I can see. Maybe I completely wrong about that.
No, it's a known thing that they say that there's a 13-year cycle in music and everything just revolves around, you know, and that would tie in with Bass House, which was 14 years ago in the UK, maybe just slightly longer, and then so there's hope yet that I might come back into fashion.
No, you never know. You're gonna like the whole music gonna come back to something.
Yeah,
this might be something new, like, you know, when like Skrillex came up with like the whole dubstep thing that turned into a big thing, and that was like super fresh because nothing sounded like that before. I mean, there was like different dubstep artists, but it's like just Skrillex as like the brand of this genre. He made it big. Mm-hmm. And it was like pretty unique sound. But again, all of the sounds like at some point they're gonna be not recyclable because it's really bad word for music. I hate it. But they just gonna pop up in completely new and cool shape. Just the next few years when it's like the sound has changed. Because like if you will listen to the sample packs from like 7-8 years ago, they sound completely different to what you have in the market right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the like the sample packs, they based like on like, you know, kind of feature based drums and stuff like that. It's like it's more snares, it's more like, you know, kind of live sounds right now, because like before that's like with the progressive house it was like all kind of computer processed. Mm-hmm. And it's like the facts that you had on there is like in processing was like you could hear it made like that's what makes like electronic dance music. But now all of the samples became like all of a sudden like people prefer to use something like, you know, wide that sounds like it's been recorded in a studio with like appropriate reverbs and appropriate like drum station and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is like with the not like this is just in my opinion, like at some point all of the styles they kind of get refreshed, and it's all in people who actually made this music. So take your inspiration and try to find something new for yourself, and just try to push yourself as well, because it's really important to not stuck in something. I mean, personally for me, I really love to take myself like into different directions and try to make like, you know, not floor to floor EDM track.
Yeah.
It's like make something like in 120 BPM with like really kind of break beats, like make it cool and make it like try to like all different sounds, try like different synths as well, because like all of a sudden it was like in like last 2 months I finally started to use Massive a lot, which I never did before. It's like Massive wouldn't be like, you know, my synth to go, but now it is like it's in my every project, because like the way how you can control everything and the synth is just unbelievable.
Love it.
Pretty inspiring.
Arty, thank you. This has been really inspiring for me. Honestly, I'm buzzing, and I know people when they watch these things, they get inspired and they'll go out and check your plugins. They'll go and check, you know, how you work, and they'll try and replicate it. So, listen, thank you so much for giving us an insight into your production world and how you create tracks and where you take inspiration from. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. That's been my pleasure. Really good talk.
Guys, I want you to thank Arty for joining us today. Hope you all got something from it, and we'll see you all very, very soon.